So we get a lot of letters here at V8TV about people with questions regarding welding, because we do a lot of welding, and if you're going to do any kind of restoration work or hot rod work, you're going to be doing a lot of welding. And I think the most common question is, what's the proper way to set a MIG welder? How do I set my welder? So we decided to take a minute and show you the quick and easy way to do this, and it's right every time, and it's really easy to do. It's going to take longer to explain it than to do it, but I think the explanation is necessary. Today we're going to be showing this on an HTP MIG 130. It's a new MIG welder they came out with. Pretty slick little machine. It's a 110 machine, so you can plug it into your garage, home current, which is, we're using that to simulate what the average person might have in their home garage. Anyway, how to set the welder? Well, if you're going to use one of these, it's really easy because HTP provides a chart inside here that's got gauge of wire and the wire speed and power setting on a table. But we're going to assume that you don't have that. And the key things are the two knobs on the front of the welder. This one here, the top one, is the wire feed speed, which is, you'll notice it's infinitely adjustable, which is nice. It doesn't click. And then the power settings, which are actually a clickable selector. And this is basically what is known as the heat or the amperage. We're going to call it heat. This is the power of the weld. And the things that are crucial are, when you set this up, you want to set it up using the material you're actually going to be welding. So if you're going to do a patch panel on a car, get an extra piece of the panel, like this right here. So this is a piece that was left over from our 68 Camaro project, right? So we're going to use this to set the welder up. And the reason why you do that is it is the exact material. There's nothing different. You don't want to set it up on something thicker and then go to your project and ruin it because the settings are wrong. And the other thing that I like to do, we're going to do this twice. It's important to keep in mind the orientation of the steel when you're going to do your weld. So for example, if you set your welder up to weld perfectly laying in a horizontal position on a steel table, but the project is vertical in free air, the welder is going to act a little bit differently. So we're going to set this up to do both. Now, MIG welding, wire feed welding, you've got your gun, your torch here, and your wire, which comes out of it. And it's basically all about timing, okay? You want to time this so that for the power setting, you want your wire feed to be feeding wire into the molten puddle at a precise speed so that it's not feeding too much or too little, okay? Either one of those are going to result in a popping sound. And the sound is important because I think that's the easiest and best way to set the wire speed is to listen. And they tell you to listen for a bacon sizzling type sound. Basically, it's a consistent sizzle. You want no popping. If it's feeding too quickly, too much wire, the wire's going to pile up and it doesn't burn smoothly. If it's not fast enough, it's going to zap individual zaps as that wire catches up to the burn speed. So for the first setting, I'm not going to worry about the amperage or the power setting because what we'll do is we'll do a test and then we'll go back and look at our weld and see if the heat penetration is what we want. First is just wire speed. So real easy. First thing I'm going to do, turn my welder on, make sure my gas bottle's on. I'm running the gas at about 20 CFM for the regulator speed or the regulator pressure. Always wear long sleeves and gloves and a helmet, safety protection. These aren't actually welding gloves, but I'm not doing a big long weld today. We're just setting this up. And I'm going to just mess these up to whatever. This I know is probably going to be a little bit too hot and the wire feed's all screwy, so I got my ground clamped to my table. And here's how easy this is, right? All I'm going to do is find a spot on my steel and I'm just going to pull the trigger, and I'm not even going to pay attention to watching it. I'm just going to listen to how it arcs, and I'm going to slowly adjust my wire speed to tune this in. Ready? So here we go. Okay, so when that started off, it was popping. Then it smoothed out. I slowly adjusted my wire speed. It was starting off at about 6.5, and I moved it down to 4. And when you do this, you don't want to quickly spin it around. Just tune it in like you're tuning in a radio. And when you get something that sounds nice and smooth, you're there. There's that. I mean, that's all there is to it. I'm going to adjust this a little bit to hear what improperly adjusted welding sounds like. That popping, the wire speed's way too fast, and you can see what it does here. We got big balls of weld on the end of our wire. We've got spatter all over the place. We've got, you know, bad penetration. This is just, that's no good. I'm going to do it again, and we'll adjust it to the slow side, and you'll hear that difference also. Okay, on the slow side, you can hear that that wire, it arcs as soon as it makes contact, but we got to wait in between. And I had the wire speed set down to 2. So I'm going to go back and dial this in again, and we'll get the nice sizzling sound. That's pretty good right there. Just below 6 on this particular setting. Now, we're going to do a little analysis and look at our weld. And this was our last one right here. You can see that the weld is reaching into the metal. It's melting into the metal. It kind of goes all the way through, but we're not burning through the steel, which is good. So I think our heat setting is actually pretty good. If it's too cold, we don't have enough heat, you end up with welds that look like this, that are sitting very high on top of the metal. And there's a whole science behind, you know, getting that right. But just for example, we can set the wire speed to be correct on the wrong heat setting, right? So I'm going to turn the heat down to 1, so it's on its weakest setting, and I'm going to retune the wire speed to match. Okay, that sounds real good. There's our sizzling bacon again. And what you'll see here from these two little welds, they're sitting way up on top of that metal. There's not enough arc power to melt that in and get a good weld. So I think where we were up on the higher heat setting is accurate. So that's really all there is to it. Pull a trigger and listen and set your speed. Now what I'm going to do is set this up in a vertical plane, because that's how we're going to weld on the car. And I know that I had this up on 3 for power. So again, that sounds pretty good there. Some of the little popping noises, I didn't really clean this metal. This is oiled up, it's right out of the box. I should have, you know, dressed that a little bit. And it looks like we've got some pretty good penetration again. Other things to consider when welding in the upward position is your gas is now more free to escape instead of you know, being concentrated in a downward position on your weld. But that's really all there is to it, you know. It's not a hard thing to do. Some people will make a weld, let go of the trigger, go adjust the welder, come back. You'll do that forever, you know. Do it while it's running, and just kind of take it slow and dial it in. So this little 130 from HTP is a nice machine for doing sheet metal. You can see how long I pulled that trigger and didn't burn through this, you know, for doing body panels. You can do, you know, restoration stuff all day long. If you have any more questions, let us know. info@v8tv.net. And if you want to learn more about that, I think you can find them at usaweld.com.